Thank you. Welcome. My name is Adigun Adejat Abiodun, and today is another edition of our Real Estate Insight, our Global Real Estate Insight. And yesterday, let me just do a very brief recap because we could not join our Instagram audience yesterday because of the network. So today, we are joining. If you are on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter, just join up with us on our handle and you'll be able to get to us live. Now, yesterday we were able to talk about the the rental apartment, the do's and don'ts of rental apartment, both in Nigeria, Canada, and Dubai. Those are the case study we were able to check yesterday. Now, today we'll be talking about the rental apartment guide. Rental apartment guide. As there are everything in this life we want to do as guide, and they has their rules and regulations. So the guide to rental apartment in Nigeria, Canada, and in Dubai. Those are the things we are going to check on today. That is what we are going to deal with today. So let's go before we take much of your time, because I don't want this live to be very, very long. I want it to be as short as possible. And at the same time, I want you to get every bit of whatever I'm talking about. So today we are talking about the real estate rental apartment perspective, global rental apartment perspective, and we'll be taking into cognizance the Canada, Dubai, and Nigeria rental apartment perspective. Now, let's start with Canada. There are some specific rules that are meant to be adhered to, that are required for us to have a very good for us to have a very good practice if you are giving out a rental apartment in Canada. So, navigating the rental apartment Canada, here are some of the guides you need to know, some of the things that are meant to guide you into the right aspect of the rental apartment market in Canada. One, you must understand the landlord ten ant law. The landlord and ten ant law, you must understand that very, very well, and you must familiarize yourself with it very well. And at the same time, you must know the part that is applicable to the landlord, and at the same time, you must know the part that is applicable to the ten ant. So there is something they call the Residential Tenancy Act, which is applicable to landlord and ten ants. It is applicable to both landlord and ten ant. That is, the landlord has their own, the ten ant too has their own as well. And this particular law is the law that that has a very, very key aspect on the landlord and ten ant relationship. And the aspect of this landlord and ten ant relationship, it includes the rent rate, how if you want to increase your rent rate, the things you have to do, the lease agreement, the eviction process, and the main ten ance responsibility of the landlord. So if you are going into the real estate, the rental market, the rental real estate market in Canada, you have to understand it very well. Then another one is, the second one is property selection. So you must know the kind of property you want to choose for this, and you must know the kind of location you want to. So of course, you must choose a location that has a very high rental demand and potential appreciation. So there are some little factors you have to consider when you are choosing property. That's under property selection. You have to consider the proximity of that particular property to amenities. You have to consider the proximity of that particular property to public transport. You have to consider schools in such areas, and at the same time, you have to consider the employment centers in such area too. You have to consider the employment centers in such area. Then the third one is legal documentation. You must be able to prepare a lease agreement that will outline the condition, the terms and condition of the ten ant, and include the rent amount, the payment schedule, the security deposit, main ten ance responsibility, and rules for occupancy. All the rules and regulation that you want your ten ant to abide in your apartment. You must be able to put that out under that legal documentation. You must be able to put it out. And at the same time, this lease agreement you are putting out must comply with the provincial tenancy law, because there is a provincial tenancy law that applies to all province. Each province has their own, Manitoba province has their own, Toronto, Ontario, Ottawa, Saskatchewan, Vancouver, Montreal, they all have, each one of those province has their own tenancy law. They have their own tenancy law. So any lease agreement you want to write out must be in accordance with that particular provincial tenancy law in whatever province you are in Canada. Then the fourth one, ten ant screening. This is very very crucial, because you have to screen them very very well. One, it will allow you to assess that prospective ten ant. It will allow you to assess their credit worthiness. It will allow you to know the rental history of such person, and at the same time it will allow you to know the employment status, and at the same time that particular ten ant must have a reference. So all these are the things that you use to screen your ten ant. Den you have to obtain a consent to conduct credit check. You have to check the credit of that person to verify the kind of income that is coming in for that particular ten ant, and at the same time you have to verify the employment details of that particular ten ant. All these are very very important, and it makes this screening makes it to avoid any discrimination claim. It will make you to avoid any discrimination claim, so that it will not be as if you are discriminated any ten ant or any prospective ten ant, because by the time you are able to put in a proper check on that particular ten ant, you will know if the ten ant is eligible to stay in your house, or if the kind of income the ten ant is saying he or she is getting is actually coming in from the work the ten ant is doing. Then there are another step of the guide you have to take, very important, is the rent collection. There must be a very very clear rent payment procedure. Either you want it at a particular time, you must have the timelines, so as for you to ensure the consis ten t collection of your rent, and you must enforce late payment penalty. That must have been list out on your lease agreement. Then the sixth one is the property main ten ance. This is very very important, because to maintain a rental property in a safe habitation condition, so which you have to maintain that property, so that it must be in a very good habitable condition, in compliance with health and safety standards, because there are rules that governs that as well. The health and safety standard, they have their rules. That is, there is a particular state in which your building must be before they can allow you to rent it out to any ten ant at all. Den the seventh one is ten ant relations. So you must foster positive relationship with your ten ants through effective communication, responsiveness. Dats, you must talk to them from time to time. Is that you have their mail, or is that you have their mailbox, so you can get across information to their doorpost on regular basis. If there is anything coming up, you must get it to their notice on regular basis, in case of in case there is any repair exercise that is meant to go on in the building, you must notify them on or before 24 hours of that particular main ten ance. Den the last but not the least is the insurance coverage. You must obtain adequate insurance to cover your rental properties, and dis include property insurance, it includes liability insurance, and as well the rental income protection. So you must review all dis insurance policy regularly, so as for you to have a very sufficient coverage for any po ten tial risk, and such risk involve property damage, liability claim, or loss of rental income. So all your insurance policy must be intact and they must be reviewed on regular basis. These are the guides that you need to follow if you are going on a rental property journey in Canada. Then let's briefly take a look on the rental property guide in Dubai. For those in Dubai, let's take a look on that. So when you're renting out a property in Dubai, you require some thorough understanding. Like I said yesterday, I said you need to know the markets, you need to know the local market dynamics, and at the same time you need to know the legal framework and cultural consideration when you are going into rental property in Dubai. So now, here are the guides you need to follow if you want to be at the very edge of competition in Dubai rental property market. Here are the guides you need to follow. One, you must conduct a very thorough market research. That is very, very, very important. You must conduct an extensive research so that for you to understand the rental market trend, the which includes the demand, vacancy rate, rental price in different areas. You have to consider that. Is very, very crucial. You consider that when you are going into property market in Dubai. You have to consider that. And at the same time, you have to consider some factors which include the proximity to amenities, transport hubs, schools, commercial centers, because these are the areas that has a very high demographic for tenancy rates. They have a very high demographic for tenancy rate. They have a very high tenancy rate, and you can get a very high rental income from such area. So all these factors has to be in consideration when you are going into the rental market in Dubai. Then the second one is the legal requirement. Legal requirement is very, very important as well, because you need to familiarize with the rental work, the legal framework that govern that governs rental property in Dubai. These include Dis include the Dubai Land Department regulation, it include tenancy law, and at the same time property registration procedure. So all dis you must be in compliance as well with licensing requirements, landlord ten ant regulation, and lease registration procedure, so as for you to protect your rights as a ten ant, as a landlord, and at the same time as for you to protect the interest of your ten ants as well. Then the third one is property selection, which I mentioned it as part of the factors you need to, as part of the do's that you need to know yesterday in our yesterday broadcast, that you need to choose a well established and up and coming neighborhood with high rental demand, so as for you to have a very high potential capital appreciation. And what are the factors you need to put in place before you do this? You need to consider the type of apartment you want to invest in. Are you going to invest in apartment? Are you going to invest in townhouses, or you want to deal in villas, or you want to deal in skyscrapers? All these are the kind of apartment that are available for people in Dubai to invest in. Then the fourth one is documentation. You need to prepare a very well and comprehensive tenancy agreement that will outline the terms and conditions. It will outline the term and condition of the lease, which will include the rent amount. It will also include the payment schedule, the security deposit, and at the same time the main ten ance responsibility, which does not leave out the rules for occupancy. So you must maintain all this for you to get for you must obtain all this under documentation. And at the same time you must make sure that your lease complies with the Dubai tenancy law, and also include provision for dispute resolution and of eviction procedures. The way you evict your ten ancy that are defaulting, the way you settle disputes between ten ants. If a ten ant and a ten ant is having an argument, or they are having dispute, the way you settle it, you must include all in your documentation, in your tenancy agreement. All this must be included in your tenancy agreement. Then the fifth one is tenant screening. Ten ant screening. So this is a process of assessing prospective ten ants creditworthiness, how are they capable of paying your money, checking through their credit worthiness, checking through their employment background, checking through their rental history, where they are coming from, where they've stayed before, checking through all that. That is what ten ant screening entails. Then the rental collection, how you want to take your rent, the number of time you want them to pay your rent. Do you want it to be paid on weekly basis? Do you want to be paid on monthly basis? Or do you want it to be, they even pay monthly? In Dubai, in Canada, is a monthly payment. It's only in Nigeria that they allow annual payments. In Dubai, you pay monthly. In Nigeria, you pay yearly. So all this must have been in your rental agreement. Then the seventh one is property maintenance. Property maintenance. So to maintain a very good property, rental property, to make it to be in a very good condition, there must be a prompt address to main ten ance issue reported by ten ant. So you must conduct a regular inspection to identify and address any main ten ance repair or needs on your rental property. And at the same time, you must get a very reliable contractors and service provider for both repair, cleaning and main ten ance tasks, to ensure the satisfaction of your ten ant, and at the same time to preserve and make your property value appreciate very well. Then ten ant relation. You must cultivate a very positive ten ancy relationship. You must have a very good effective communication, responsible and professionalism when you are relating with your ten ants. Then the last but not the least is the security measures. You must invest in adequate security measures to protect your rental property and ensure safety of your ten ant. There must be security cameras, alarm system, access controls and so many measures so as to control security aspect. And you must engage security personnel or property management company to monitor the premises of your to monitor and secure the premises of your rental property very well. So these are the 9 things you need to put in place when you are investing in rental property in Dubai. Now let's go to our own the main, which is Nigeria. Nigeria. Let's go to Nigeria now. So what are the guides to start a rental property business in Dubai, in Nigeria? The guide to start a rental property business in Nigeria. What are the guides to start a rental property business in Nigeria? Now, we'll be taking a case study of a well-known area in Nigeria. We'll be putting into consideration Lagos, Abuja, and Port Harcourt. Why am I putting these three places into consideration? Because they have a very high they have a very high rental income rate, and the city is well developed, and it has high rental income rates. That's There are a lot of people trooping in and out of such city, and they needed more buildings to stand as a residential building, to start as building that will generate rental income for the owners. So now, here are the things you need to put into consideration when you want to go into when you want to go into when you want to go into rental when you want to go into rental property. in Lagos. One, you must conduct market research just as the others. You must check the market trend, you must check the demand rate, the vacancy rate, rental prices in different neighborhood. And at the same time, when checking the rental prices in such neighborhood, you must consider the proximity of such neighborhood to amenities, proximity of such neighborhood to transportation, schools and commercial centers. Those are the key things to consider. Then the second one is the legal framework. Now you must familiarize with all the legal requirements and regulation governing rental properties in Lagos or in Nigeria as a whole. There are key aspects which include the tenancy law, the property registration, the landlord tenant rights and dispute resolution mechanism. All dis has to be known, and there has to be a particular documentation for such. Then at the same time, you must engage legal professionals. There is no two way about it. You must engage legal professionals so that legal professionals that are specialized in real estate, so as for them to ensure there are compliance with local laws. It's not as if you go to a business center and draft out a law for yourself. No. So you must seek out the legal professionals to help you in the compliance and help you arrange a well tailored laws that govern ten landlord rights in Nigeria. Then property selection. When you are selecting a property in Lagos, you must choose the property that appeal to rental demographic in Lagos. You must choose the property that has a very good conditions, and there are some factors you must consider when you want to choose the right target rental property in Lagos. You must consider the type of property you want to go into. Do you want to go into apartments? Do you want to go into houses? Do you want to go into duplexes? And at the same time, you must consider the size of such apartment. You must consider the condition in which you want such apartment to be. The security features and the amenities of such apartment are of utmost importance as well. And let me give you a tip. This is a tip, a tip for you that are listening. There are areas that has a very high demand. When we come to properties, they have a very high demand. The areas include the Lekki, Ikoyi, Victoria Island, Ikeja, Epe, Ibeju-Lekki. Those are the hot areas that has high demand now. So if you want to invest, just seek out to any of such areas and invest in them, but make sure you do your own due diligence as well. Then the fourth one is documentation. So make sure you get all necessary documentation in place before renting out the property. A well-drafted tenancy agreement that will detail the terms and condition of lease, such as the rental amount, the duration, the payment schedule, main ten ance responsibility and security deposits. All these are very very important. Then you must verify the authenticity of such property titles, and at the same time obtain relevant permits, approvals from all regulatory body before you rent out your property to anybody. So make sure you are in a safe hand by securing all the genuine documentation. Doing so will save you from Lagos State law enforcement and other regulatory bodies as well. Then the fifth one is tenancy screening. You screen your ten ants very well so as for you to minimize the the risk of default and property damage. You must know where the ten ant is coming from, and you must know that the ten ant has proof of the income he or she said she has. And you must verify the employment verification. You must make sure you verify the person's employment details. That is, if you want to screen your ten ants, Then the sixth one is main ten ance and repair. You must have a regular main ten ance and good upkeep to preserve the value of the property, and at the same time to get tenants tenancy satisfaction. And this will also help you to have a positive landlord ten ant relationship. When you are the type that maintain your property very well, you at ten d to all main ten ance issue on time, and doing all this you can save yourself from the stress of going back and forth over a particular main ten ance issue in your rental property by employing the help of property main ten ance agency. Then the last but not the least is the security measure. So you must invest in adequate security. You must make sure you have you install burglar alarm, security cameras, perimeter fencing, access system control that are needed. All the controls, all the security gadgets that are needed to secure the life and property of all your ten ants must be put in place. So this is what I have for you today. I'll be so glad if you can send in your questions or any particular topic you want us to talk about on this show. And my name is Adigun Adijat Abiodun. Till I'll come your way again tomorrow, same time. Bye.